Breaking news this Monday afternoon from Oakland County. A worker is trapped in mud. This is a very tricky operation to get him out. We will have an update. Ben.
Karen, our break from the snow is continuing into this week, but it is about to come to an end. We'll tell you how much we're in for tomorrow.
Also, student protests at Michigan State. A controversial speaker will make an appearance in about 30 minutes. These people are not happy.
Local 4 News begins right now with a breaking news alert.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Drew. First at 4, we have been tracking a mud rescue in the Oakland County community of Brandon Township. A worker trapped in mud, and it took a couple hours to get him out. Our Devin Skillian is in the newsroom with the very latest. So the question, what was the guy doing there in the first place, Devin?
Well, Karen, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department says the man was doing some electric work when something went very wrong. They're still trying to get to the bottom of that, but he ended up being trapped in knee-high mud on Hadley Road in Brandon Township. Trouble started around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Rescue workers moved in to help. In fact, we were watching them as they tried to figure out the best way to get him out without hurting him. Surprisingly complicated process. It took about 2 hours to get him free and then load him onto a gurney. He's been taken to the hospital. We await word on his condition, and we also await further details on exactly what went wrong. It'll surely be under investigation, and as soon as we get more information on the man's condition, you'll see it here and on clickondetroit.com. Karen, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Devin. Other stories that we're following at this hour: a fatal car crash has led to 2 Detroit police officers being arraigned today on charges of willful neglect of duty. Prosecutors say officers Stephen Hyde and Ronald Cadez chased a suspected speeding car last October until it crashed near Maiden Street and Park Drive on the city's east side, killing the driver. Hyde and Cadez then allegedly failed to report the chase, did not stop to investigate, and drove off. Bond for each officer was set at $5,000. Protests are marking the appearance of white nationalist advocate Richard Spencer on the campus of Michigan State University at this hour. The university originally opposed his appearance but relented under the threat of a lawsuit. MSU permitted Spencer's organization to rent the pavilion for agriculture and livestock education for 2 hours this afternoon. Now, his appearance does come as many students are gone for spring break, but dozens have still shown up to protest all day long, and they are moving closer to where he will speak at 4:30 today. We are live on the campus tonight at 5, and Priya Mann has spoken to Spencer about why he's coming to East Lansing. You'll hear his comments tonight at 5. It was a messy commute for drivers this morning after a semi-truck lost its load, tipping over and then spilling salt all over the freeway. It happened at the I-96 and 75 interchange in southwest Detroit. The left lane closed for hours while MDOT crews cleaned up the scene. Things are back to normal now. Most of our snow is melting again, but there is more to come, and the timing could be pretty frustrating. Ben Bailey is standing by. I don't know why I'm smiling about this, Ben. I guess we're just used to it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is March. We've moved into a new month now, and unfortunately, we're going back to the snow. But what we've got out there on the ground looks like it's probably going to stick with us, and then we're going to just top it off a little bit as we head into next 24 hours. Wind chills are in the 20s. Air temperatures, though, in some spots are above freezing. 36 in Ann Arbor. Metro's at 36. Port Huron right now 30. And we're right at 32 in Monroe. Got a lot of clouds out there. Those are going to continue to increase tonight, and the snow does return tomorrow. We'll talk about how much we're expecting there. Temperatures getting colder as we head into the middle part of this week, but the weekend, at least as we see it right now, is earning high marks. We'll take a closer look at Saturday and Sunday, which is definitely the green light on the schedule. All of that coming up in a few minutes, Karen.
All right. Always fun to talk about the weekend on Monday, right? Thanks, Ben. Today is the DACA deadline that has been looming over thousands of immigrants for months, but it's not as critical as it once was. In September, President Trump said he was ending DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. He gave Congress 6 months to fix the situation. Congress has not taken action, but the courts have ordered the program to continue until they decide if it should be ended. So that means the so-called dreamers are still left in limbo, but unlikely to be deported right now. First at 4, we're on top of stories making headlines all around the world this Monday. Let's start in North Korea, where Kim Jong-un is hosting a dinner for a high-level South Korean delegation. The delegation is led by South Korea's National Security Director. The two-day trip is expected to focus on how to ease a standoff over North Korea's nuclear ambitions. The dinner marks the first time any South Korean officials have met with Kim Jong-un since he took power back in late 2011. South Korea will report to the U.S. about how the meetings go. We move over to Germany, where Chancellor Angela Merkel will finally be reelected to a fourth term after a long political standoff. Merkel welcomed a coalition deal after the center-left Social Democrats voted to remain in a coalition with her conservative bloc. Now, the deal gives her the support needed to preserve her governing coalition. The Social Democrats agree after Merkel gave them control of the foreign, labor, and finance ministries. Let's come back to the United States. This story gathering a lot of attention. Comedian Bill Cosby, he is back in court trying to get his sexual assault case thrown out. His attorneys say they have proof he was not in Pennsylvania when Andrea Constand says she was drugged and raped at Cosby's home in Philadelphia by the comedian. They claim to have travel records and other documents as proof. A jury deadlocked during the first trial. Unless Cosby's attorneys are successful, the new trial is scheduled to start March 29th. President Trump rattled world markets with his promise of tariffs on steel and aluminum. But the question right now is, was that threat a risky bargaining chip? Today, he tweeted, quote, "Tariffs on steel and aluminum will only come off if new and fair NAFTA agreement is signed." NAFTA negotiations are underway. Paula Tutman is taking a closer look this afternoon at the possible impact of the tariffs here at home.
Hall Road in Macomb County could be called the consumer's corridor. Almost anything you want or need, from autos to food to clothing, can be found somewhere in the nearly 9 miles between I-94 and M53. And this is where talk of tariffs and trade wars can really hit home, and how goods are sold and purchased by everyday people. Professor Kyle Handley is an assistant professor of economics and public policy at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and he explains the trickle-down effect of slapping tariffs on goods coming into the United States from other countries. Use China, for instance, in what could be called the Trump tariff tree. China is particularly aggressive and retaliatory when it comes to trade practices.
The unintended consequences are that other countries will retaliate against these tariffs.
Tariffs placed on aluminum and steel will ultimately affect manufacturers who use those metals, from soup cans to cars to motorcycles to washing machines. The prices will go up for consumers when manufacturers have to pay more for the raw materials coming in. And currently, the U.S. imports more steel than it exports. In fact, Handley says if you go beyond the original branches of the tariff tree, it gets dicier because China will likely slap tariffs on U.S. goods, like soy and chicken feed. Farmers sell a lot of soy and chicken feed to China, which means they get hurt in a trade war, which affects their wallet, which affects what they can spend on Hall Road.
They're a very large market, and so they can shut down U.S. soybean imports if they want to, and they'll get along just fine.
It's important to say that Professor Handley is not a Trump supporter, because Frank Blowers is. The former head of 2 local community banks and a former representative of a local Harley-Davidson, Frank sees it entirely differently.
It's a gamble that we'll pay more for goods, but so will they. I don't think that they will follow that.
He says what Trump is proposing is good news because it pushes all parties to renegotiate the NAFTA trade agreement. And he thinks it's worth the risk to spark a trade war between nations.
That strategy is to bring everybody to the table to renegotiate NAFTA, to make NAFTA more of a level playing field for the United States.
Okay, so you might say, what's the big whoop? No decision on actual tariffs has been made yet, except decisions are being made right now as we speak by the people who control where plants are built, the quantities of raw materials that need to come into this country, hiring based on manufacturing. The actual tariffs talk affects everything in that supply chain, and all of that talk trickles through. And when there is a lack of stability in policy or in basically what the president is saying, all of that planning stops cold. Karen?
All right. Thank you very much, Paula Tutman, for that report. Still ahead, here first at 4, Oscar winner Frances McDormand gets Hollywood on its feet with a plea for more diversity. Her acceptance speech has everyone talking about 2 words that could change how movies get made. And Dr. McGeorge is here.
Hey Karen, in good health, it's a vaccine that can help prevent cancer. But many parents aren't getting the message, what you need to know. And I'll talk about a mistake that many families are making before bedtime that makes it harder for children to get to sleep.
Up first, an avalanche rescue caught on camera. Dramatic video after a California couple was buried alive. Stay right here.
He's known for his... Coming up all new on Local 4 News at 5 and 6.
More than 250 female gymnasts have come forward to accuse Larry Nassar of abuse. So far, just 1 male gymnast. And he spoke today at this press conference about his story and why he wanted to come forward.
A California couple survived being buried alive after they were caught in an avalanche. They were on their first run of their snowboarding trip when they began to hear people yelling about an avalanche. Even Huck said after the snow took them over, he was pinned down head first for about 5 minutes before he was rescued. His wife was also caught, but was able to get herself out of the snow. In good health today, new research that could increase the number of kids receiving a vaccination to help prevent cancer. Obviously a very important topic. We brought Dr. Frank McGeorge in to kind of explain how this works.
Yeah, Karen, you know, we're talking about the HPV vaccine and basically a new study that suggests that communication is really the key to getting people to use it. Researchers assessed a training program designed to help doctors better discuss HPV vaccines with young patients and their parents. And they found the program helped increase the number of teen girls and boys who started and also importantly completed the vaccine series. Now, the HPV vaccine has been shown to help reduce the risk of cervical and other cancers, but less than half of teens complete all of the recommended doses.
Now, another study about children that caught our eye, especially me, because we're talking about bedtime and how to make it easier for those little ones to go to bed.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You might say that this study is basically shedding some light on the importance of dark before bed in particular. Researchers found exposing preschoolers to an hour of bright light before bed, well, it drastically reduced their production of melatonin. That is the hormone that regulates sleep. And those levels actually stayed low for almost an hour after lights out. Researchers basically think structural differences in the eyes of children make them more vulnerable to light. And the takeaway for parents is dim the lights and take away any electronics well before bedtime. And of course, this can be a problem for adults too. So if you have any trouble sleeping, it's probably good advice for you to turn down the lights as well.
Dim the lights.
Yeah.
I put my little diffuser on with my oils. It's like a Zen moment.
Lovely. Well,
it does work.
And I think it's a really good idea if you think about the way we've evolved, basically. There were no lights, 200 years ago. We went to bed just fine.
Yeah, the sun went down and so did you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Doc. Appreciate it. Well, actually, days are getting longer, which I kind of am enjoying, Ben. What time change is next weekend, right?
It's coming, yeah, Saturday nights.
Oh, doesn't it just like change your whole thing?
I mean,
changes your attitude.
When we change the calendar, now it's March, and then we change the clocks, and spring is very
here,
close.
and then hopefully we get rid of the snow.
I want
but not this week.
Oils, though.
Okay, I'll hook you up. I will hook you up.
Really good, especially when you see what's coming tomorrow, because we've got another round of snow that's on the way. Current temperatures, though, are above freezing in almost all locations. Port Huron, the exception there, which is at 30 degrees. But this is cooler than what we saw yesterday. Not a ton, but those numbers just a few degrees off of what we were looking at Sunday at 4 p.m. And you can see our next system that's out in the Plain States right now. And this is going to be a significant winter storm for folks that are well north of us. We're on the tail end of this. There's still going to be enough precipitation. You see it's all green right now as it heads towards Chicago and western parts of Indiana. But by the time it gets here tomorrow, this is mostly going to be snow. I think if we do see a mix, it's going to pretty much be in the southern part of the area. We'll nail that down for you here in a second. You can see the clouds increasing, high thin clouds. Those will get lower and thicker tonight. And we should stay dry until closer to sunrise. And that'll be the onset of precipitation first in our south zone. As we get a little bit closer to about 4 or 5 in the morning, you'll start seeing those snow showers develop. Then they'll spread pretty quickly through the entire area during the morning commute. So this is going to impact the drive in, no doubt about that. And most of the snow does look like it's front loaded. Most of it's going to be coming in the morning hours. We get a little bit of a midday break. And then as we go into the afternoon, some of us are going to get a wintry mix out of this. Could be just rain down here in our south zone. A little bit of a mix elsewhere. elsewhere. And if you're still seeing precipitation in our north zone, that's likely going to stay as snow. And this is the reason why, looking at high temperatures tomorrow, those are going to be upper 30s, close to 40 degrees, at least downriver. And we may actually get to the 40s in parts of our south zone tomorrow. Lambertville, Blissfield, Adrian, all in the 40s. A little bit more of some upper 30s as you get closer to the northern edge of the zone. West zone, even though these temperatures are above freezing, it's still going to be cold enough to keep most of this stuff snow, especially once you get into Livingston and Genesee County. And again, in our north zone, we should be seeing all snow even in the afternoon tomorrow, as high temperatures not going to be far away from the freezing mark in the afternoon. So tonight, we're only going down to 30. That's slightly above average for this time of year. Winds are going to be on the light side. Snow showers around during the day tomorrow. And again, that light mix possible as we get into the second half of the day in the afternoon. Futurecast as we take it into the next 7 days. Temperatures actually getting colder Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, we'll barely get above freezing there on Thursday. A couple more shots of snow. Tuesday does look like it's the main event. This stuff should be relatively light, and we'll see a lot of breaks in between. And then as we get into the weekend, that's when things get nice. 37 Friday, 42 on both Saturday and Sunday. And it looks like we should see a lot of sunshine Saturday. And even though we have one less hour to enjoy on Sunday, it's still going to be a pretty nice day otherwise.
All right, thank you, Ben. Still ahead, scam alerts are very often targeted to senior citizens, but another age group could be more common. We'll talk about that. Also, this little girl is now part of a viral photo. We'll show you the image that made her stop and stare and dream about being a queen. Trending stories are next.
How do you...
In today's trending stories, it's not just grandma and grandpa losing money to scammers. In fact, criminals are often preying on younger people these days. 40% of Americans in their 20s reported fraud to the Federal Trade Commission last year. That is compared to just 18% of consumers who are 70 and older. However, when seniors were scammed, they lost more money, about $621 on average for people in their 70s. That's compared to $400 for people in their 20s. Overall, Americans lost, get this, $905 million to fraud in 2017, though the number could be even higher if people don't report their losses. Well, this story is definitely trending today. Best Actress winner Frances McDormand has a lot of people wondering about a specific phrase she used in her Oscar acceptance speech. She made a pitch for more women-directed projects in Hollywood. Take a listen.
Don't talk to us about it at the parties tonight. Invite us into your office in a couple days, or you can come to ours, whichever suits you best, and we'll tell you all about them. I have 2 words to leave with you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Inclusion rider.
By the way, an inclusion rider is a clause an actor can put actually in his or her contract to require the cast and crew of a movie to meet a certain level of diversity. It dates back to a TED Talk speech in 2016 suggested by an expert in diversity and inclusion. Speaking of inclusion, this photo, take a look at your screen right now. It's a photo of a little girl. It's going viral. She was seen staring at the new portrait of the former First Lady, Michelle Obama. A visitor to the National Portrait Gallery was struck by the image, took the photo, and then posted it online. The girl's mom says 2-year-old Parker Curry believes Michelle Obama is a queen, and now she wants to be a queen too. We'll be right back.
He's known for his strength in the NFL. But this Detroit native was wrestling a different kind of challenge off the field.
You just feel grief and pain and hopelessness.
For decades, he suffered in silence, hiding a painful secret.
You're miserable, it's hard to explain to other people.
I'm Sandra Ali. Now he's breaking his silence, opening up about a taboo topic, his life-saving message, tonight at 11.
This winter.
Breaking news just in from East Lansing, where some David Spencer supporters have gotten rowdy during protests. Priya Mann is there live. Priya, give us the latest details where a fight broke out. Priya is not live. We'll try to bring that situation to you. As we said, what we do know is that there is a situation in East Lansing as Spencer is speaking. His speech begins at 4:30. We will be back at 5 o'clock with a live update on exactly what.
Well, Well, Karen, a fight just broke out about a few minutes ago. I want to show you the scene here right now. There are a lot of officers here, heavily armed protesters chanting Nazi go home. These protesters upset that Richard Spencer was allowed to speak here. He is the founder for the National Policy Institute. And protesters here say he should never have been allowed to speak at MSU in the first place. Now, throughout the day, there were about 200 protesters, and for much of the day, things stayed calm. They were over at the pavilion, then marched closer to the venue where Spencer is set to speak. That speech beginning in just a few moments, starting at 4:30. And the protests were mostly peaceful up until I'd say about 20 minutes ago. You had a huge surge in the number of people that were here, and police reacted quickly. We saw one man arrested. We saw many more getting into arguments and scuffles with either one another or with police. We are here live in East Lansing. We will continue to bring you updates. Again, the situation here went from peaceful throughout the day. That is starting to change. Things are getting a little bit more volatile right now. We are here, as well as you saw multiple police officers from a number of jurisdictions. We'll continue to bring you the latest on Facebook and click on Detroit.com, and of course have a live report for you at 5 o'clock. Reporting live from East Lansing, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
All right, thank you, Priya. We'll check back with you at 5 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. Inside Edition is next.